Hey gang, this is the Project Sleuth, and today I'm gonna drop my transmission pan, drain the fluid, and change the filter. So bring you along for that. I'm gonna start with a 1/2-inch ratchet to pull 14 bolts from the transmission pan. Let it drain. Gonna pull the filter, let it drain for an hour, and take you along for the ride. Alright, so hopefully you can see the pan there and the tub that I've got underneath the catch basin for the fluid. I've started to pull the bolts out from the front first, and you can see I've got the pan, or the drain pan, positioned underneath the front of the transmission pan, and as I've started to pull the bolts out, the fluid is starting to come out a little bit, so I just wanted to back away and get the camera on it so that you can watch the rest of it. I'm just going to lower the front end of the pan, hopefully catch all the fluid in the drain pan, and slowly but carefully remove the rest of it. It helps to have a long socket extension. I'm using a 6-inch extension. It's really starting to drip now. I went ahead at first and just lightly loosened up the tension on the bolts. We'll torque them back down when we're done. I'm not quite sure what the torque spec is, but I'll look that up and we'll do that. Fluid actually looks in pretty good shape. It's still pink. But I do a lot of heavy towing, a lot of camping with a truck camper on the back of the truck, and this fluid is about 40,000 miles old. So I got the pan off, and you can see if I tip it up here, the color there, it's nice and pink. You can see the magnet. It's pretty clean. No, just a little bit of clutch material on there, which is a sign of a real good, healthy transmission. This truck has almost 300,000 miles on it. I'm running the original transmission, and the only work I've ever done to it is to pull the overdrive housing off and replace the snap ring with a hardened one. So 40,000 miles, pretty extreme driving using a truck camper. I'm pushing the gross weight of this 1-ton Dodge, and the transmission's holding up fine, which is widely known as the weak link in this system of this truck. So we'll let that continue to drain for an hour or so, and we'll clean up the pan and install a new gasket. Alright, so while we're letting that drip, I took the pan and hit it with some brake clean, got it nice and shiny, and I want to make an extra point of describing that it's really important to get the surface here, the bolt surface, as clean as possible. That will ensure a good gasket fit, and hopefully you won't have any drips. There's also a dimple right here in the bottom of the pan where the magnet goes. So we're going to slap that on there. So now, in preparation of reinstalling the pan, I'm going to take the pan bolts and run them up through the gasket. The gasket will hold them in place, and that way, after I install the new filter, I can take the pan with me when I go underneath the truck to install the new filter, and then I can just lift the pan in place and all the bolts will be where they need to be. We've been drip draining for a little over an hour now. It's time to reinstall, well, to install the new filter and pan. One thing that I didn't mention earlier is that I've never done this before. My disclaimer, never done this before. This is my first time. Bolt 1 in the filter, there's 2. Now that I've got the pan back on, I'm going to torque the bolts. I'm going to start on opposite ends and work in a star pattern, just like when you torque your lug nuts on your wheels. I'm going to start at 7 foot-pounds, get all the way around, which is also 80 inch-pounds. And then I'm going to come back and re-torque everything at 10 foot-pounds or 120 inch-pounds. We took the pan off, we drained it, we pulled the filter, we cleaned up the inside of the pan, took the material that was on the magnet out, used a brake clean on the inside of the pan, cleaned up the edges really well, put the gasket back on the pan with the bolts, slid it under the truck, reattached the filter, put the pan back on, torqued all the bolts, first to 6 foot-pounds and then to 10 foot-pounds. Now we're gonna put 4 quarts of ATF plus 4 back in the system, see if that gets us where we need to be on the old dipstick, and if not, we've got a few extra quarts just in case. I've seen on the forums mention of the job taking between about 4.5 and 6.5 quarts. I can't tell you what the difference is. Maybe I know that some people run different size pans, so that's probably part of it. Don't know if there are any other variables that could result in the difference, but I've got 7 quarts. I've got a gallon plus 3 quarts. So we're going to start with the gallon, which is 4 quarts, and we'll see where that puts us. So in the end, I used 6.5 quarts of transmission fluid. Probably took me about 3.5 hours to complete the whole project. And the next time I will hire it out. but it was good to do, especially because I've never serviced a transmission before. It always feels good to do new stuff, and I hope the video helps somebody out there. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel, and until next time, happy sleuthing.